right? This is I'm going to show you the same function in Drupal 3 and in Drupal 7. This is cache get, one of the oldest functions we have. It's a great function. This is the entire code. I'll point out, to make other people squeamish, one of the other fun things I found when I was patching Drupal 3 is like right now we all use UTF-8 and Unix encode line endings. There's some Windows formatted files in Drupal 3. I have a couple of patches that are just like goofy because they're broken, because someone's using like Latin 1 encoding on their text files. This is the same function in Drupal 7. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, we have lots of code, but you know, this is a 3-line function with 12 lines of documentation, right? And that allows us to do this, right? The API. For those of you who've never seen it, api.drupal.org, Drupal, I think, is probably, I'm not an expert on this, probably the best documented open source project I've ever seen. PHP is pretty good, but the Drupal documentation is pretty spot on in many ways, particularly in its class. I mean, try to find Joomla documentation, it's painful. And this leads to the other big change, right? Drupal 3 had one core maintainer. And in Drupal 7, we have 48 people listed in the maintainers file, right? And because of the things that we've done with the documentation, with the way things change, everyone can have that level, right? I came from sort of nowhere. I'm number 45 on the list. Ooh, Dave Reed here in the front row. Were you working on Drupal 3 years ago? You were? Yeah, to my knowledge, like you and Damien came out of nowhere to me between Drupal 6 and Drupal 7, just appeared. They're both in the top 10 now. It's possible. You can do it. And I think that's really, really powerful and really, really important. So that's the last lesson of Drupal 3, actually, which is still true. And this is a classic open source, statement. For those of you who have never read it, whenever I talk about open source stuff, I always recommend the book that changed my entire life, which is The Cathedral and the Bazaar by Eric Raymond, which is about the history of Linux versus Microsoft Windows. And it's not about their marketing battle so much as the developer mindset behind the two systems. And it's a fascinating read if you've never read it. The Cathedral and the Bazaar. Not bizarre, but bazaar as in marketplace. And this is the big lesson, right? If you work together, right, all bugs become shallow. You get people who can use their domain expertise to solve specific problems. Your bus factor goes up, which is good. Right? Higher bus factor, better. Your fun factor goes up because you're no longer working by yourself. I mean, how many of you are new to Drupalcon, by the way? Have you noticed how freaking happy everybody looks? Have you seen like the old timers and they'll like run across the room and hug each other? Well, that's because we spend 95% of our professional lives locked in little rooms staring at tiny little screens by ourselves, right? And then we're like, dude, I haven't seen you in 6 months. Boom. And then people get drunk and there you go. So the moral of that is, one of the nice things about Drupal, yeah, you're never actually working alone, right? And I think that's really, really important. That is actually the end of my prepared statements. And we have 11 minutes for questions. Wow, I can go back and do more demo if you'd like to see more stuff too. We can look at code, we can do lots of things. Does somebody, I lost my room monitor. I'll just repeat the question. Yeah, if someone will volunteer to.
So is node access pretty much exactly the same in Drupal 3?
No, the node access function is literally just about, can this person edit and delete? The node access API doesn't come in until 4.5, I think. Yeah. And I appreciate it. You get to be, we're just community microphone passing now, so.
But, was it different front controllers that I was seeing there, or was everything passed through index.php?
There were some different front controllers. That's an interesting piece. Excuse me 1 second. Let me see if I can.
I saw like this in PHP or something.
Oh, I have to do. Let's see. There are a couple of different things. Drupal 3 is more like Joomla. It doesn't have the concept. It doesn't have an htaccess file. Drupal now runs everything. Every request goes through index.php. There is an admin.php, there's an account.php, and the URLs, if you're paying attention, Yeah, this URL is actually node.php ID 5. And this is actually very, very standard for PHP applications. And Drupal is actually one of the things that really changed this philosophy. The reason that Drupal's SEO is so good, and I don't think we need a meta tags module in core, is because Drupal paths are so cool, and the folks who do path audit make it awesome, right? Yeah, another question.
I was going to say that in the latest build of Joomla, people aren't adopting it because it puts index.php back in like the home links.
Nice.
The big uproar amongst friends of mine who use Joomla, like, oh, I'm not doing that until they fix it. Like, why did they never make it back into it?
Yeah, I did
an older version.
I did a Joomla to Drupal 6 import, and I had to map all of like the controller statements in the URLs to Drupal menu callbacks, and it was painful. But I did it. And a question back there.
Yeah, what's the database schemas like for the different modules and so on compared to what we have today?
Oh, well, lucky for you, we have a little bit of time. And if I go to my homepage, I can pull up. Oh, see, I took it down because I didn't want people to accidentally see it. Hold on, let's see if I can find it. Oh, wait. Bookmarks? Where is it? I have PHP admin out here somewhere, but usually I just shortcut. Things you're not supposed to see. So I can't show you the schema, I'm sorry. It's actually very, very similar. Like the user table looks very much like the user table. I can show you what let me show you what I can show you. Oops. Come here, 5 minutes. Come here. 3. There is database. This is the database file. It's not anything but I say so I want to come here.
Double click.
Well, I didn't want to open in text edit, the problem. There. What the heck? This is why I didn't want to do a live demo. Okay, here we go. Here, let's pop that up so people can actually see it. Yeah, I'm evil. I don't use a fixed weight font when I develop. I'm bad. Yeah, I know. There's Monaco's. Stop lynching me. I can see it. So, like the access table, the blocks table is actually very, very similar. Name, module, these kind of things. Let's find a table that hasn't changed. Like book. Yeah. Although notice there's not a global node table. The book table keeps its own body content, which is kind of interesting. I actually hadn't thought about that. Boxes table, I think, goes pretty much unchanged until Drupal 6, which is kind of interesting. Bundle, I actually don't know what bundle does. I didn't get that far into it. The cache table, almost identical to cache page now, which is kind of fun. Categories for meta, let's find another one that's good. Chat events and chat numbers actually are never used. They're just in here. There's no chat module, but the tables are here. I'm not sure what collection it is. Comments, I mean, this will look awful familiar to people. So some of the structures are not unchanged, but they've been around for a very long time. Other questions? The CVS table, right down there. Ooh, it's a CVS log table. Kind of interesting.
So I think you've been wondering about Cloud Module. You remember Drupal Module?
Yeah. Oh, is that
So
what
it's the
Cloud-
same stuff. It was renamed Drupal Module later. So Cloud Module was basically a very interesting concept of running a cloud of sites who phone home, and then you can have a site directory of sites phoning home, and then you can go to those different sites in the directory. So it's kind of ready for running multiple sites and organizing them in a directory already.
I had no idea. When did you start on Drupal?
4.3. It was I chose Drupal because it had a different admin UI. And after 2 months, I was with the project. They merged it in, so it was like.
Yeah, I will point out, by the way, here we are at a Drupalcon, and I should go to this slide. I have to put this up before we do. So I am now, again, this code contributor guy. But the first thing I ever did to contribute to the Drupal project was in Vancouver. They did an exercise. We actually had everyone in a room, because this was how many people were in Vancouver. And so we were all in this room, and Dries split us up to do non-coding tasks. And I was in a group with Earl Miles and Nedjo Rogers and Dries and I think Kieran Law, and we did a card sort to take the Drupal admin menu items and put them into silos. This was for Drupal 5 at the time. The fact that you used to have the users menu was my fault, because I argued for that. So one of the points is you can actually influence Drupal behavior and the growth and direction of the Drupal project, even if you're not a code contributor. One of the things we actually need right now, I'll just put this out there if anyone wants to take it on, we need someone to document requirements in an efficient way, right? To go, like if you were down at Greg Dunlap's core conversation where he was talking about how we're going to do deployment and staging and some of the things that Dries was talking about this morning. How are we going to do configuration management in code? Someone really needs to capture all of those ideas and document them in a way that they can then be split up into independent tasks so the